Keith Jones.
Rick Strode.
How you doing, buddy?
What's up, baby? It's been a minute.
It's been, we do like 50 of these in a row, so this is like our 49th show today.
It's been a minute, man. I missed you, man.
How you doing, man?
Good. Last time I talked to you, you were on your way to Santa Fe. How was it?
Santa Fe is great. Santa Fe, if you haven't been, you ought to go. It's really a beautiful place in the summertime because it's in the mountains. It's about 6,000 plus feet, and it's probably, I would say, maybe with an exception of a city or two in Florida, it's the oldest city in North America.
Really?
Yeah, it was founded like in 1609.
I had no idea.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And you have a lot of that old Spanish, old Indian influence. It's really cool. So there's a lot of history, but there's a lot of art, and there's a lot of emphasis on health. Really beautiful place.
Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So I thought today's show would be about positive self-talk.
Okay.
You know, often we talk about the negative chatter and how it can undermine what we're up to, take us out of being our, best self. So I thought we'd share with our audience what are some of the things that we say to ourselves so that we bring out the best.
Are you talking about like when you're doing competitions or just in general when you feel like you're not hitting the ball the way you want to hit it?
I think both, whether it's something physical or competitive, or whether you're just trying to, exercise patience when normally you would probably have a meltdown and, curse and fly off the handle.
Let me ask you this. Do you ever get into a situation where you're like in a funk? You strike me as always up and always focused on what you're doing, and the physical is such a big part of what you do. Do you ever just sort of feel like, oh man, another day I'm just not doing this today, I don't feel, if you get into a funk, how do you use self-talk to get out of it?
Well, physically, I rarely get into a funk. I've been working out since I was in Marine Corps. So, I was in Marine Corps at 22. It's when I was last in. I'm 47 now, so we're talking 25 years of consistent working out. So now, working out part is just really automatic. So I don't get in the funk there. And then I have a ritual that I do with stretching and rolling and air squats and things like that, so that warms my body up. So even if there is any kind of remnants of a funk that's present, that little 5-minute ritual every morning knocks it out and I'm ready to go.
Wow.
Yeah, what about you? Do you get in the funk physically?
Yeah, well, physically I'm pretty much like you, although I don't have the same regimen as you do. It's much less onerous than what you do. But no, I think physically I'm pretty well there. What troubles me is like worrying about situations where I've said something and I regret that I said it, or something is said to me and I'm not at my best when I respond. Right. You know what I'm talking about?
Right, yeah.
And I try not to get in arguments with people, but it's part of life, confrontation, disagreement, and so forth. Yeah. And I'm always trying to be better at what I hope is a better, compassionate way of being. How about for you?
Same thing, I'm always trying to be better in that way and trying to be conscious and mindful of the present moment and who I'm with, and just trying to let that part of me kind of shine through instead of the ego part that doesn't mind a good tussle in the mud, and even if I'm not looking, it'll sneak in there and it'll hold a grudge and things like that. So I'm always trying to keep that at bay.
Well, give me some tips. Let's say that you're in a situation where you don't want to react, but you need to control what you're doing and you're talking to yourself. What kinds of things do you say to yourself to keep you where you want to be?
Well, it's a couple things. Let's say it's somebody that I know.
Okay.
Right? And it's somebody I know, but my ego is telling me that they did something that was disrespectful or something where they didn't value my time or all the stuff the ego tells you. And it doesn't matter who it is. This person could have a long history with you of nothing but doing great things for you and a ton of goodwill that they've earned. But when the ego flares up, man, it just forgets all bets are off. So an example would be if someone told me that they're coming to class that I'm leading, and they either don't show up or they show up late or something like that. My ego wants to raise up and it wants to say, like, how can they, show up late, not keep a commitment, They don't respect the time or of my time or other people's time. There's an impact. Like it wants to talk about all these things. Now, mind you, we're all late at different times in our lives, or we don't keep a commitment. That all happens. But my ego is like, don't bother me with the facts. My mind's made up, and so it is literally ready to go. So in that case, I have to remind myself of who this person is. And this person, whether they're late for this is the first time or they've been late 10, 15 times, this is a person who's still chosen to support my business venture. They still chosen to lend their energy to my mission or our collective mission to really help each other be healthy and happy. And so when I remind myself of who this person really is to me, then it's not about the behavior or them being late. It's a larger conversation there. Wow. And so for a while, I didn't have that kind of awareness till long after I said something that was rude or reactive, and they were left injured, or if I didn't say anything, I withheld love and connection from them, and I was kind of passive aggressive in my behavior. And you can always tell because I always like say hello to people or give them a hug. And so if someone comes in and if I don't meet you that way, ego is like trying to, it's tug of war and it's winning. The flag is on this side. So, but now I'm catching it faster. And so I'm able to shut it down really quickly, remind myself who this person is for me. And even if I don't know the person, then I'm still able to say, hey, we're all on our journey, our level of consciousness is different, I don't know what's going on in their world, and I'm gonna be loving no matter what. So I tell myself, be loving, be loving, be loving, irrespective of what the issue is or perceived slight is.
Boy, that's a great idea. I like that idea of trying to recognize somebody for who they are and what they contribute to your life.
Absolutely.
And being compassionate about that.
Yeah, exactly. Beyond whatever I think they did wrong.
Right.
Yeah, because it's so subjective.
Yeah,
What about you?
Well, I think my self-talk usually comes into play in things where I feel insecure or outclassed or inexperienced or lost. So that can apply to anything from stuff that happens in my career to dealing with new people, to meeting new people, or competing in something that I think I'm a little worried about doing well at. So my self-talk usually involves like a 4-step process. And I didn't develop this, I got this from Tara Brock. She'll be in the show notes. And Tara says that when you confront something like that and you start feeling your heart racing, or you feel like you're in this ambiguous area where failure is likely, or you feel threatened, or you feel insecure, the 4-step process is the acronym RAIN, R-A-I-N, and it stands for first you recognize what's going on, you monitor it. Oh yes, my heart's beating faster, my blood is moving faster, I'm feeling a little bit odd, I'm feeling a little scared. So you recognize it, number one. Number two, the A is you accept it. You don't say, hey, stop doing that. Don't be nervous. It's okay, don't be. I mean, anybody tells you don't be nervous, I mean, does that help?
Right.
Never. I mean, you can't, you're gonna be nervous. So just accept it, whatever it is. Accept that emotional feeling. Then the third thing, the I, is to investigate. Look at it. Is this something that you really need to be worried about? I mean, I used to think, for example, when I stood up and talked, that I would look like a fool. And I thought, well, seriously, the worst that's going to happen is maybe I will make a fool of myself, but I'm not going to get a mark in my body, right? I'm not going to die, right?
Right,
So,
you're not going to die.
So you investigate and you look at maybe what the worst thing is and think to yourself, okay, so what? And then lastly, and probably the most important of the four, and this is the N, and this initial stands for the notion of nurturing. Nurture yourself. Hey, it's okay, man. It's okay to feel a little nervous about this. You never did it before. You're gonna do really well though, because you're prepared. It's okay. So that's kind of self-talk, I think, helps me through most of my insecurities.
Oh, beautiful. We have a listener who asked me a question about that, and I think since career is an area to where self-talk has really become helpful for you, is she's at a company that she's worked at for a couple of years now, but they're in a new management. And so she feels this need to prove herself, and she says that's where the negative self-talk is coming in, because she feels like, does new management think that I am valuable to the team? I'm doing all this work, and so she's working a ton of hours, more than anyone could possibly ask of her, but she's doing it because she feels like she has to show them that she's valuable to the team. So her negative self-talk is really strong right now about, are they noticing it? Am I doing a good job? Or do I need to do more? Or I'm unsure about this. It's because she says that they're really smart and there's a lot of uncertainty about it. So the advice that you have from Tara Brach regarding the acronym RAIN, would that be applicable to her?
I think it would be. I also think that one of the things that causes us to be anxious about whether we're judged appropriately is, again, the issue of control that we've talked about so many times in these podcasts. You can't control how other people look at you. You can't control how the boss reacts to the work that you've done. You can only control your ability to do a great job and to do it with integrity and to live your life in a way that has meaning for you. And after that, you have to let it go. And striving, the idea of trying to meet somebody else's expectations when they're not your own, is really a dead end. You're going to end up creating some psychological issues, emotional issues for yourself that don't need to be there, and pain. I don't like pain so much, so I don't do. I'm old, so I can get away with it, but I don't do that anymore because it's painful, right?
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'll close with this and I'll let you wrap up the show.
Okay.
One of the things that I do, and I found this to be the most effective, and I started doing this about 2.5, almost 3 years ago. And a friend of mine named Noelle Bowman, her name is Noelle Schuck now, what she told me is that she went to, she was doing some work on herself, and she came up with this thing that she asked herself, this question, and it trumps any other goal that she can set for herself that is measurable. She asked herself, is that my best?
Wow.
So,
wow.
Is this my best?
Wow.
So I start to apply that to every area of my life, and it's huge. So when I get up and, when I would go to the gym and work out, I set a goal, okay, I'm gonna squat this much weight for these many reps. And I would go in there like, hell bent on doing it no matter what. Not taking any consideration of what the previous exercise was, if I had enough rest before it, if there were different factors that could impact my performance. If I didn't hit that number, I walked away with like, man, I failed. But what I do now is I just say, was that my best? And my best standard for me is really high. And when I don't hit it, I can say, no, I didn't hit it. Like it's totally, for me, it's objective. And I not only do it in things like working out, but something that's much more important to me, and how I treat myself emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, and how I relate to other people. So instead of getting mad at people because there are no external enemies, no one can do anything to me.
It's true.
It's a story that I create about what they did, that is where all the suffering and pain is, or the ego gets involved. So when I can just ask myself in my response to them, was that my best response? So if I withheld love and connection, no. My standard is higher than that. That was not my best, regardless of what they do.
Okay, so let's apply that. Let's suppose you have a confrontation with somebody and you say something that you don't like and you wish you could take it back. Do you correct it right then?
Yeah,
when you say, okay, this was not my best, and you go back and say, hey, wait, I'm sorry, I just got carried away in the moment, or do you
Yes, because if I'm asking that question in that moment and I went off or whatever, I will stop and say, hey, listen, I just want to apologize to you.
Nice.
I'm better than that. That's my best. And my friend Tamara, who's great, will be doing something, and I may have like a reaction, and she's like, and she calls me sensei. She's like, sensei, is that your best? And I'm like, no. Or we'll be working out, and I'll say, hey, that one didn't count. You need to do that one again. And she'll say to me, and she was like, she'll give me a look and an attitude, and I was like, is that your best? And she's like, no. So we have this thing, or she'll say something about how challenging the workday was, or something that didn't go right at home, or whatever. And she had an attitude about it, and she was upset, and she was angry. I was like, really? Is that your best? And then she's like, no. She's like, I'll go back and I'll make that right.
Sweet.
And so it's this thing that I do that just really helps me like stay on point. So remember when you didn't say it, but you had this thing when you sent me an email about the technology challenges.
Yeah. Oh,
and you,
man. That was not my best.
Right, but you wrote me back.
Yeah, I did.
You wrote me back and said, Keith, I just want to apologize for that rant I had about the technology that you tried to share with me. But what I found is it's not about being perfect. It's so much more compassionate and forgiving than that. It's really more loving. And it's just asking yourself a question. So when you go out to make a choice regarding dinner, and you've set a commitment for yourself that you're going to eat healthier so that you have optimal health and you're more fit, and you weigh at a health, your weight is a healthy weight. Whatever the case may be, or how you treat your children and not getting mad, or if they do something wrong, not going off and screaming and nagging and, saying things that you will not be happy that you said later, or how you treat your spouse. If you ask instead of beating yourself up over it, just ask yourself, is this my best? And then for me, man, that just changes everything. And so that's what I use now as my positive self-talk. I ask myself that 100 times a day.
Oh man, that's powerful.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
So yeah, how do you want to close the show out?
Well, I want to say thanks to Noelle because I'm going to apply that as well, and I think we both owe you royalties, Noelle, for that one. We gotta pay you a little
Yeah.
something for that great tip. I think the wrap up on it would be self-talk is really important because it's sort of the only way that we can communicate brain to heart and heart to brain. And we have to keep that open. It has to be back and forth so you clearly understand what you're doing is with your own intention and with your own integrity on the line. The main thing about self-talk for me is making sure that it avoids at all costs self-sabotage.
Yes.
And everything in life is about circumstances that you can't control coming to you. So the issue is, how do I deal with those circumstances that are unpleasant? And self-talk is one of the keys to getting past that. One last little tip we hadn't talked about in the show, but I do want to add it. I think this is important. When you have a mental thought that says, I'm not good enough, for example, in my when I was talking earlier about my own insecurities, when you have something that comes up that says, I'm not good enough, that's a thought that's not voiced. In order to erase that, what I do is I say out loud, I am prepared, I am good enough, I will be good enough. So I hear something silently in my head,
Right.
but I make something verbal come out to counteract it, and that seems to help.
I like it.
Anyway, the point is, don't self-sabotage. There's plenty of reasons you can in this culture. Anybody can, and I think that's a dead end for all of us. Don't self-sabotage. Be the best that you can be. That's what we're trying to do, and that's what this dude is.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and so in the comments, if you have something that you say to yourself that is positive self-talk,
Yeah.
We'd love to learn from it. So
Totally.
please leave it in the comments, notes, and we'll be happy to give you a shout out and start applying it. So have a really, really great life. Rick, thank you, my man.
Hey, thank you, Keith. I love you.
I love you too, man. Thank you.
Thanks for watching.